Graylan Stewart here with another video. Thanks for tuning in. If you've never watched any of my videos before, it is about wholesaling real estate. I do it virtually, nationwide. We do focus on a couple of different areas throughout the U.S., but we do wholesale nationwide. We get deals all over the country every single week. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate it. If you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up. I'd appreciate that a lot, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. I'd love to have you subscribe, and also ring the notification bell, and that'll just alert you on new videos that we upload, because I do upload a couple times a week. Anyways, so today I'm going to talk about how to get a tax delinquent list. Okay. Now keep in mind, this will vary depending on what part of the country you're in, because everybody does it different, but at the same time, it's pretty similar most likely. So I will tell you, the best place to get any list, period, is straight from your county, okay? So you go to the local county assessor in your area, wherever that is in that particular county, okay? So what you want to do is just call around, wherever you're trying to wholesale. And I do recommend wholesaling in your own backyard. A little side note, because it is easier, because you know the area better and you're more familiar with that, especially when you're new, you're just trying to figure things out. I definitely would never suggest virtual wholesaling when you're first starting out. You always want to start in your own backyard, because that's easier, and you can just figure things out along the way. Then you can branch out later if that's what you choose to do. But anyways, I digress. So back to how to get the tax delinquent list. So like I said, you do want to get that from your local county if possible, okay? So what you want to do is just make a phone call. 9 times out of 10, they're probably not going to know what you're talking about, but at least maybe you might be able to get the right department. So do a quick Google search your county tax assessor, find that tax assessor website, and then just find the contact information on that page somewhere, and then give them a call. Okay. You can also copy down the email if you're able to find one, if they have one on their site. But what you want to do is call them and just explain them exactly what you want. Don't beat around the bush, and don't try to sugarcoat it, whatever. Just say, hey, this is Graylan. I'm a local investor, and I'm just interested in seeing who all was behind on taxes. Who all is in jeopardy of possibly losing their house. I want to try to help those people out if possible. So who can I talk to that actually can get me a list of those people so I can try to help them? Something along those lines. And a lot of them be like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Or they might refer to something else, and you're like, I'm not sure if that's really what I'm needing. What I really want is just a list of these people. It's public information, but I want to find the easiest way to where I can get this information. And that's really what you do. But like I said, sometimes they'll transfer you around to different departments, different floors. If it's a bigger town, different, all the different levels of floors that the courthouse might have. They keep referring you and defer to someone else because they don't know a lot of times. But once you find it, and a lot of times it will be difficult over the phone. So I would recommend, which goes back to my point, do it in your own backyard. I would recommend trying to physically go down to the courthouse, because that'll definitely be a lot easier. Once you're there, you can navigate through that a little bit easier and just go up to different people. That's exactly what I did, because I tried doing the phone calls, called all over, because I wanted it from several different counties. At the time, it was in Oklahoma, because I lived there half the time back then. And so what I did is I went down there, tried to talk to a lady. She had no clue what I was talking about, or she mentioned something like completely different than what I was really wanting or needing. And also, a lot of times they only take cash as well, because the list typically costs, it doesn't cost a lot. And I do know, I've heard that some places will actually do it for free, because like I said, it is typically public information, just sometimes harder to get that information that you want. But they only took cash, so I went to the ATM, I got cash. But it did take me 4 or 5 different people before someone finally knew exactly what I was talking about. The lady literally said, "Oh, I know exactly what you want." I'm like, great, perfect. She's like, so I'm like, can you put that on disk for me? Do you email it? How does all that work? So she said, well, what you do is you'll pay me with cash. I give you your receipt. You take it over to this other line on this other floor or whatever. You take it to that window and they log it, I guess. And then our IT guy will actually email you, within 24 hours or 48 hours, whatever it was. They'll email you the list. So, and I've heard of a lot of people that they'll actually just give you a disc on hand for $50, or this actually cost me $125 to get that list there. But I know some of them will do it for free. I've heard some 50, 75, a couple $100 is usually probably the max I've heard of. But like I said, this particular county was $125. Now keep in mind, I did get the email, a day or two later, like she said. But if you've never gotten this list before, keep in mind you got to do a lot of scrubbing, if you want to call it that. And you might want to do, what you want to do is it's going to give you all kinds of crap that you don't want. To make a long story short, it's going to give you all kinds of different numbers and characters and things that don't even make sense at all. So really what you want to make sure you have the seller's name, right? The homeowner's name that's tax delinquent. You want to make sure you have the property address that is delinquent, okay? But you also want to make sure you have their mailing address, because usually a lot of times it's different. Sometimes it's the same, but in this particular county, it would give me a property address and a mailing address on two different columns, and a lot of times those were the same address, but oftentimes probably more than half of them were different addresses. So another thing to keep in mind on tax delinquent list, this list is gold. It's harder to get, but since it's harder to get, it's probably less worked, so you have less competition on it. But not only that is, usually if they're tax delinquent, these houses are free and clear. They're completely paid off, and that's how they get tax delinquent, because their taxes and their insurance, all that stuff is not escrowed through a mortgage company like a normal house would be. Majority of the people, out there get a mortgage and that's escrowed into their payment. So what that means is a lot of times these houses are free and clear. And I would actually say probably in my experience so far in 2.5 years, probably 95% of those are free and clear, because it's super rare for you to have a mortgage and not escrow your taxes and insurance, because that's just the way it typically is. You escrow your taxes and insurance, and you typically don't even have a choice. That's just what they do, right? So that's really cool, because you already know that they've got the equity that we need, because that's the whole key in wholesaling, unless you're doing subject twos or something like that. But the whole key in wholesaling is they have to have equity, or you're not going to be able to make a deal out of it, because you got to have enough spread for the buyer and for the repairs and for your assignment fee. So if there's no equity, there's probably no deal, like I said, unless you do some kind of creative financing. But just strictly regular wholesale deal, it's really good to know that these people are tax delinquent. So not only do they need our help so we can solve their problem by taking the property off their hands, but also it's free and clear. So we typically don't even have to really ask that on these customers, because that is one of the questions that we usually ask, when we're talking to sellers. How much do you have on your mortgage, or is there any kind of payment that we'd have to pay off once we go to closing? And typically they'll give you that info. But on tax delinquents, you don't really need that, because 95% at least are going to be free and clear. So that's really cool. But so keep in mind, when you get that list, you got to scrub it. And what I did, even when my first list I got, my first tax delinquent list, I think I got, so I started in October of 2018. I think I got this list by the end of November of 2018. I got it pretty quick because I knew and heard that it was a good list, but it was difficult to get. But I was determined to get it because I knew it was going to be less saturated, I guess, less people going after those same sellers. So I did get the list, but so what I did when I got the list, it had literally hundreds of columns when you only need 8 to 10 columns, however many have first name and last name. You need property address, property city, property state, property zip, and then mailing city, mailing state, mailing zip. Hopefully I got all those right. Anyway, so that's 9 right there, I guess. And if you want to keep on there how much they're delinquent, just so you have an idea, you can keep that. But anyways, there's hundreds of other columns that you just literally delete. So what I did when I got the list, I recorded a video of myself doing exactly what I wanted a VA to do, okay? So I just did 2 or 3 of them to show them exactly what I wanted. I'm like, okay, here's what I need. Because the first name and last name were all on one column, and we need those separate, because when I first started, I did direct mail only. When you do direct mail, you need a first name and last name in separate columns. And in most marketing that you do, you kind of want that anyways. That's just how you need to append your list, okay? So I did this, I recorded a video. I'm like, okay, this is what you do. So I need this first name, this last name, different columns. And also I did, because there was literally like 30,000 on this list. And in this county, you had to be 3 years tax delinquent to actually go to the auction. So if they're only 1 year behind or 2 years behind even, I wanted those deleted from this particular list. Now I did make a copy because I can use that same one for next year. But for this particular year, I wanted all those deleted. So that's the first thing I had them do, is delete those, separate the first and last name, make sure they all had property address, property city, property state, property zip, and the same thing for mailing. And then, and I did want to know how much behind they were, so I had them keep that column there. And then I was highlighting all these different rows, and I deleted all of them. So that's the instructions I gave them. So like I said, I did this on 2 or 3 of them, so they'd have a good idea. And also I had them delete all the LLCs, all the incorporated, all the trust, because those are just more difficult. You're going to have so many to choose from. You're not worried about those anyways. And those are typically investors probably anyway. A lot of them wait to the last minute to make their payments. So that's what I did. You get the list, narrow it down the way you need to, make a video of it so you can actually have a VA do it, because it'll literally take you probably 8 to 10 hours to get this list really the way you want it. So you can spend your time on the phone or trying to talk to sellers rather than appending your list and scrubbing that. So that's just a tip that I would recommend for sure. But anyways, so that's typically how you can get a tax delinquent list for any county. They're all going to be similar. Some of them might do it over the phone or by email. But worst case scenario, go down to the county, ask around, just tell them, just be upfront with them. And they're usually fine with it because they know it's public info and they know there's investors out there. There's other people probably asking for it as well. You're not the only one. There's just not as many as, these other normal lists. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. That's my tip. Hopefully that helps you out. Hopefully you found value in this video, so you'll definitely give me a thumbs up. If you hated the video, give me a thumbs down. I'm okay with that as well. But definitely, if you follow me all the way to the end, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. I'd appreciate that as well. Definitely trying to grow my following because, my channel is all about just telling you the truth and wholesaling, what really works, what doesn't work, and what we do in our everyday business. I don't ever recommend or talk about things that I don't do or know of myself. So that's just a tip for you as well. Everything I talk about is from experience. So anyway, hopefully you like this, and I'll see y'all in future videos. Thanks a lot.